Have you ever felt forgotten, betrayed, or misunderstood, yet still held onto hope? This is the story of Joseph, the boy with a dream, the man with a destiny. A journey from a colorful coat to an Egyptian throne. A story of faith, favor, and forgiveness. Genesis chapter 37 to chapter 50. Long ago in the land of Canaan lived a man named Jacob, also called Israel. He had 12 sons, but he loved Joseph, the son of his old age, and Rachel, more than the rest. He showed his love by gifting Joseph a coat of many colors, a beautiful, richly woven robe. But this gift only fueled jealousy among his brothers. At just 17, Joseph began having strange and powerful dreams. One night he dreamed of sheaves of grain in a field. His brothers' sheaves bowed to his. Another time, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed before him. When Joseph told his family, his brothers hated him even more. Even Jacob was confused, saying, "Shall I and your mother and your brothers bow down to you?" But deep in his heart, Jacob wondered what these dreams could mean. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers who were grazing the flocks near Shechem. When they saw him from afar, jealousy turned to a deadly plot. "Behold, this dreamer cometh," they sneered. "Come now, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit." But Reuben, the eldest, intervened. "Let us not kill him," he pleaded, hoping to rescue him later. So they stripped Joseph of his colorful coat and threw him into a dry pit. Soon, a caravan of Ishmaelite merchants passed by, heading to Egypt. Judah suggested they sell Joseph instead. For 20 pieces of silver, their brother was sold. They dipped his coat in goat's blood and returned it to their father, who mourned deeply, believing Joseph had been killed by a wild beast. Jacob wept bitterly for his son. In Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. But even as a slave, the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man. Everything he did succeeded. Potiphar made him overseer of his house, entrusting all he had to Joseph. But Potiphar's wife began to lust after him. "Lie with me," she demanded. Joseph refused. "How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Day after day she tempted him. One day when they were alone, she grabbed his garment, but he fled, leaving it in her hand. Angry and humiliated, she falsely accused Joseph of trying to assault her. Potiphar, enraged, threw Joseph into prison. Even in prison, the Lord was with Joseph. The keeper of the prison trusted him, and Joseph soon managed all the prisoners. One day, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker, imprisoned for offending the king, had dreams on the same night. The cupbearer saw a vine with 3 branches, blossoming and bearing grapes which he squeezed into Pharaoh's cup. The baker saw 3 baskets on his head, filled with baked goods, but birds came and ate from them. Joseph interpreted both dreams. "Within 3 days," he told the cupbearer, "you will be restored." To the baker he said solemnly, "You will be hanged, and the birds will eat your flesh." Both interpretations came true. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him, but he forgot. 2 years passed. Then Pharaoh had 2 troubling dreams. In one, 7 fat cows were eaten by 7 gaunt cows. In the second, 7 plump ears of corn were devoured by 7 withered ones. None of Egypt's magicians or wise men could interpret the dreams. Then the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Joseph was brought from prison, shaved and clothed before appearing before Pharaoh. "I have heard you can interpret dreams," Pharaoh said. Joseph answered, "It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace." Joseph revealed, "The dreams were 1, 7 years of great abundance, followed by 7 years of famine." He advised Pharaoh to store grain during the good years to survive the bad. Pharaoh was amazed. Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? He made Joseph ruler of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh, and gave him a new name, Zaphnath-Paaneah, and a wife, Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, the priest. At 30 years old, Joseph rose from prisoner to prince. As Joseph had said, 7 years of plenty came, and then famine struck. Back in Canaan, Jacob heard there was grain in Egypt and sent his sons to buy food, all except Benjamin. When the brothers came, they bowed before Joseph, fulfilling the dream from years before. They didn't recognize him, but Joseph knew them. He tested their hearts, accusing them of being spies, imprisoning Simeon, and demanding they return with Benjamin to prove their innocence. Jacob was heartbroken, but when the food ran out, he relented and allowed Benjamin to go. When they returned with Benjamin, Joseph hosted a feast, seating them in birth order. He was overcome with emotion at seeing his brother and left the room to weep. Before they left, Joseph secretly placed his silver cup in Benjamin's sack. Once they had departed, he sent his steward after them. The cup was found and they were brought back. Joseph declared Benjamin must stay as a slave. Judah stepped forward and pleaded, "Take me instead. I cannot bear to see my father suffer again." Joseph could hold back no longer. Tears streamed down his face as he cried, "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt." His brothers were terrified, but Joseph said, "Do not be afraid. What you meant for evil, God meant for good, to save many lives." He forgave them completely. Joseph sent for Jacob and the entire family, 70 people in all. Jacob rejoiced to see Joseph alive. Pharaoh welcomed them and gave them the land of Goshen. Jacob met Pharaoh and blessed him. Before Jacob died, he blessed Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and made Joseph a double portion heir. Jacob died at 147 years old. Joseph had him embalmed and buried in Canaan, as he had requested. Afterward, his brothers feared Joseph would take revenge, but Joseph comforted them, saying, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring about this day, to save many people alive." Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. Joseph continued to serve Egypt with wisdom and grace. Joseph lived to 110 years old, saw 3 generations, and before his death, made the children of Israel swear, "God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here." Joseph's life is a testimony that God's plan prevails, even through betrayal, suffering, and delay. The story of Joseph in the Bible is one of the most powerful narratives of faith, divine purpose, and forgiveness. It's not just a historical account. It's packed with timeless lessons for life, leadership, family, and trust in God. Here are the key lessons we can learn from Joseph's story. 1. God has a purpose, even in pain. Joseph's journey from the pit to the palace was full of suffering, betrayed by family, falsely accused, imprisoned. But God used every step for a greater plan. Even when life feels unfair, God is still working behind the scenes for a purpose greater than we can imagine. 2. Dreams delay, but they don't die. Joseph had divine dreams as a teen, but they took over 20 years to come true. The delay didn't mean denial. Don't give up on the vision God placed in your heart. If He gave you the dream, He'll bring it to pass in His perfect time. 3. Integrity matters, even in the dark. When no one was watching, Joseph still chose to do what was right, refusing Potiphar's wife, managing prison duties faithfully. Integrity isn't proven in the spotlight, but in secret. God sees faithfulness even when the world doesn't. 4. Forgiveness is freedom. Joseph had every reason to seek revenge, but instead he forgave his brothers with compassion. Forgiveness isn't just for the one who wronged you, it's for your own healing. Letting go opens the door to God's blessings. Finally, Faithfulness in small things leads to bigger things. Joseph was entrusted with small responsibilities, and because he was faithful, God gave him more. Don't despise small beginnings. Promotion comes through consistency, stewardship, and faithfulness. Which lesson stood out to you the most? Share your comment below. Thanks for joining us today. If this story has blessed your heart, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for another amazing one.